Hello and welcome everyone to another virtual Intrepid adventure. Thanks so much for joining us today for our program Flying in Style. My name is Alicia and I'm an educator at the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum in New York City. I'll be your host for the program, and just as a reminder, the museum's live streams are free, but if you'd like to support us in delivering this content, please click on the link in the comments or in the description. So, everyone, once again, this is a live program. Feel free to use the chat today to say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from, and let us know if you've ever been to the Intrepid Museum before. And of course, if you've got any questions, you can put them there as well. So, today we are going to be talking about planes, and more specifically, the artwork on some of the planes that we've got on display at the Intrepid Museum. So, things like what they represent and how the designs on the airplanes are kind of like sports teams, believe it or not. But first, a quick recap, if you are not already familiar, everyone, about our museum. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is the Intrepid Museum. So our complex is located on the west side of Manhattan in the Hudson River, and our museum is actually housed inside of a historic World War II aircraft carrier, the former USS Intrepid. So on site, we have a historic Cold War era submarine. We've got the Space Shuttle Enterprise. We've got the British Airways Concorde and a whole bunch of other really, really awesome planes too. And everyone, as you can see in this picture, it is really, really big. All right. Now, our ship is 913 feet long. Now, that's so big that if you stood it up on one end, it would actually be just about as tall as a New York City skyscraper. And it's also so long that you could just about play 3 games of football on top of it at the same time. So it's kind of a fitting reference today, since, of course, we are going to be talking a little bit about teams. Now, the Intrepid was built in 1943 for a very specific purpose. It was made during a time where we're fighting countries all the way across oceans. And at the time, we didn't really have the ability to launch our planes from way over here in America and then fly them all the way across the water to get over there, because it would just take too much fuel, too much time. The planes weren't really built for that sort of long range flying yet. So we created things like the Intrepid. Now, what do we call things like that? Tell me in the chat if you happen to know what type of a ship is the Intrepid. What is something that would let us do that with our planes out on the water? Something that lets you launch and land, something that, carries aircraft. What could you call that perhaps? Yes, I suppose maybe you could say it was a aircraft carrier, right? So not only can ships like this carry aircraft, but it does also let us launch and land them just like a floating airport. So the Intrepid was in service during 3 wars: World War II, the Cold War, and the Vietnam War. And then afterwards, it was decommissioned and it was rescued from the scrapyard, believe it or not, and then turned into a museum, the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum that we know and love, in 1982. Now, everyone, if you were to go visit an aircraft carrier in service, something like this would not be an unusual sight. You will notice here lots of crew members. They are all wearing different colors. Well, if you've ever seen some of our other programs, you might recall that the color that they wear has to do with their job. So, for example, the red ones are the ordnance workers. They're helping out with the bombs and the ammunition, for instance. Kind of easy for me to remember because I think about like flames and fire and it's red. So bombs and whatnot is the red ones. Then you've got the purple ones, or of course the nickname of the grapes, helping out with fueling. You can kind of think of like it's juicing up the plane. But, seeing all these colors also might remind you of something else where a bunch of people wear colors and they're on specific teams, right? So I want to stop here and ask you all, does anyone out there on the internet watching right now, does anyone out there like sports? And what are some of your favorite sports teams? Let us know in the chat. So I'll start us off. I'm from Pittsburgh originally, and I have to admit that my favorite sports team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, go Steelers. Also the Penguins. They used to be a little bit better than they are now, but I do have a very special place in my heart for them. And of course, the Pirates, which are not doing very well at all either, but I grew up with them and they were great back then too. So again, a very special place in my heart. But let's see what you all like. Does anyone have any favorite teams out there? You can put them in chat. As you're doing that, everyone, though, thinking about some of these things like teams and sports, we can think about colors and logos and shapes and things that help us to identify the teams that we have in our city or just happen to love. So, thinking about things like, for example, the New York Mets, right? Their colors are blue and white and orange, which are actually colors found on the New York City flag, too. So these are colors that we can identify with it. And we can think about it and do that with planes, too. So think about your favorite sports team. Think about what makes your team's, branding special, whether it be the colors or the logo or the mascot. Maybe you love their mascot. Because believe it or not, we also decorate our airplanes with something similar as well. First of all, though, of course, we can look at the color of the airplane, the color that it's painted, and there might be a very specific reason for that, all right? Why the color of the airplane that it's painted there. So let's take a look at this big blue plane. Does anyone happen to know the name of this plane? I know we get a lot of repeat visitors for these programs, and I see some familiar names in the chat already. So this plane, everyone, it flew during World War II. This is the oldest plane we have in the museum. Actually, one of my favorites here. And I do want to point out this plane in particular because if you have come to some of our other programs, you might also know that this is a camouflaged plane. And yes, frankly, LIC in the chat, the Avenger. Exactly. The name of this plane is the Avenger. Now, while at sea, everyone, the Navy wanted to protect its aviators and its ships. And one way that they could do that was by hiding it in plain sight using camouflage. And that means that there are different colors or different patterns that help them to blend in with their surroundings. Now, you might think, well, that's silly. This plane is flying through the air. What is it going to blend in with, right? Well, it kind of depends on how you look at it, literally looking at it. If you are flying below it, or let's say you're on a ship, right? You're on a ship below it, but you're looking up at it. Well, you are going to see the underside of it, right? And you'll notice that the underside of that plane here is white. And that's because it's going to blend in with the clouds. Clouds are white usually, right? Maybe not recently. Of course, we had that hurricane, a lot of dark gray clouds here, but usually they're white. Now, if you're flying alongside of it, you'll see that that light blue color is along the middle of it. And that is so that it can blend in with the blue skies. Hopefully it's a nice day out again, right? But if you're also flying above it, you will see, if you're looking down at it, that dark blue color along the top of it when you're looking at it. And that, of course, is to blend in with what's underneath it, which on an aircraft carrier around that area would be the ocean, that dark blue. Now, many other planes like Hellcats and Corsairs, they also used that dark color, also because they were Navy planes. And again, that blended really nicely in with the water. But, some Avengers, specifically ones that were actually flying in the North Atlantic, didn't have those blue shades that we saw on the Avenger on our ship. They were gray. So look at this picture here, right? Now, why were they gray? Well, the weather up there, way up in the north, there's a lot of gray clouds, kind of overcast, right? So again, it helped them to blend in with the sky in that area up north much, much better. So it's a little bit, regional, depending on where you're going to be. Now, looking at these planes here, there is something else in common that they have, all right? A particular marking. So take a close look and see if you can spot it. They all happen to have a type of logo on their sides, all right? Did you catch it? Can you find it? So everyone, right here, you see those three markings there. They're all the same. So does anyone know what this is called on an airplane? Again, it's kind of like a logo, all right? We can think of the color of the plane like maybe the jersey of the team, but the logo helps you to know what team you are looking at or also what country they are from. So this particular marking is called a roundel. And this particular roundel represents the United States of America. But if you didn't get that immediately at first, I don't blame you because it kind of looks like something might be missing on it, right? If it represents the USA. When you think of a country, you often might associate it with the flag of the country, right? And specifically, of course, the colors of the country. So if this is the United States of America, what color might be missing from this particular roundel? There's definitely only two of the three. So everyone, when I think of the United States, I think, of course, of red, white, and blue. So, of course, I would think, well, where is the red on this? Well, believe it or not, it did used to have red in it prior to the one that we just saw. It looked like this. So if you take a look at this picture here, you can see what it used to look like. Now, it was a blue circle with a white star and a red dot right in the center. So why does it look different in the pictures that we just looked at? Well, do you think the Navy, well, think about who they were fighting. All right. Why do you think the Navy removed the red dot from the Roundel during World War II? Who were we fighting back then? Remember, at that time, the Avengers and the Hellcats, right, they were flying in the Pacific Ocean and they were fighting against the Japanese Navy. All right. And the planes that they were fighting against, everyone, looked like this. All right. Now, this is a Mitsubishi Zero. Now, these planes were flown by the Japanese. And if you notice the roundel on this plane, you will notice it has a giant red circle surrounded by white. Now, it's got this element that is a little bit similar to our old logo there and maybe a little too close for comfort. Again, going back to the sports team idea, right? You know how if we have two teams with similar or maybe even the exact colors, how that's going to be kind of confusing if you're playing each other in a game. Because if let's say it's basketball, right? They're running up and down, the court there. How are you going to tell which team is which at a glance, right? It's a little bit tricky to be able to discern between them. So to fix that, they usually would wear their home team jerseys, the white ones, right? Or their colors that are the more bolder colors, their colored jerseys. So that is a way that you can make it more clear at a glance who is who, while still also embracing your team's colors. So with that in mind, America realized, yikes, hold on, we are fighting these planes that have a very similar feature in their roundel. And if you're scanning the horizon, all right, with your finger on the trigger, ready to go, just looking for a red dot, let's say, you might accidentally get a little excited and shoot down an American plane because we also had that red dot. So they decided to get rid of the dot entirely, as you can see here, because they didn't want to be mistaken for those Japanese planes, which is pretty smart. So eventually they did add some red back into the roundel in the form of stripes, just like that. And, again, the stars and stripes, just like on our flag, because later on, our planes were then moving a lot faster. And it didn't really matter as much what colors or symbols were on them anymore. But we'll get to that in just a second. So everyone, first, before we move on, we are going to play a roundel challenge, all right? I'm going to show you some roundels, and I want you to guess what country that roundel comes from. So you're going to see a roundel and two flags. So if you think that it comes from the country's flag that's on the left in the chat, I would love for you to type the letter A. And if you think it comes from the country on the right, go ahead and type B for me, all right? So here we go. Here is our first roundel in our challenge. All right, so take a look at that. Think about what country this roundel might belong to. So think about things like its colors, its symbols. Think about the significance of that symbol, perhaps. It might help you decide what country it might belong to. So everyone looking at this roundel, do you think that this is the roundel for Australia? If you think so, type A. Or New Zealand. If you think it's New Zealand, type B. All right, A or B in the chat for me. Do you think this roundel is A, Australia, or B, New Zealand? All right, so we've got some answers coming in here. All right, we got some A's. All right, we got B. Bastion says Australia because kangaroo. All right, so let's find out what the answer is, everyone. The answer is Australia. You got it. So you'll notice that although we don't see the symbols on the flag, right, the colors are still similar. And Australia, of course, yes, is known very well for its kangaroos. All right, but everyone, just for fun, let's take a look at New Zealand here. Again, very similar flag, actually, similar colors, but that bird is a little different. So does anyone know what kind of a bird that is? Anyone know what kind of a bird that is? Very, very special bird that they have in New Zealand. That is actually the kiwi bird. And it's actually what New Zealanders' nicknames are, too. They call them the kiwis. All right, so let's do another one, everyone. Here's the next one. All right, so we see yellow, we see red, we see blue, and a star in the middle. All right. So looking at this particular one, which country do you think this belongs to? All right, do you think it's Zambia, Type A if you think it's Zambia. Or B, Colombia. Type B if you think it is Colombia. So again, we're looking at things like colors and shapes, all sorts of stuff like that. All right, we got some answers coming in. Excellent. Got some other answers. Yes, keep going. All right. All right, everyone. So the answer on this one is Colombia. Again, this time we can really see that color similarity. And again, just for fun, here is the Zambian roundel. So that one, again, looks very much like the flag, and it has that very unique bird on it as well, but again, similar colors. All right, try this one now. All right. So we're looking at this one. It's got that kind of bullseye shape with those specific colors on it. Do we think this one is A, Ireland, or B, Jamaica? So again, looking at colors, shapes, designs. Sometimes, again, the patterns on it don't necessarily reflect the flag, but you can get other cues. All right, so you think this one is A, Ireland, or B, Jamaica? All right, Frankly has decided what answer that is for sure. All right. Passion, I see your answer. Excellent. All right, so this roundel, everyone, belongs to Jamaica. Yeah, again, you could probably tell based on the colors, the green, the yellow, the black, right? But here's Ireland, just for fun. Actually, I think probably one of the coolest, definitely one of my favorites. It, again, has the colors of the flag, the green, the white, the orange, but also that swirly pattern that kind of evokes like the Celtic knot that they're so famous for over there. So definitely another really cool roundel. All right, here's another one, everyone. Ooh, now this one has a little bit of a different shape. We're looking here at some kind of boxes, this sort of checkerboard pattern with some border on it, all right? Some red and white. So everyone, looking at this one, do we think that this is A, Poland, or B, Canada? Now this one might be a little bit tricky because, again, look at the colors. They're both kind of similar. But the markings, the patterns, might be a little bit tricky. A for Poland or B for Canada? All right, get those last minute guesses in. A, Poland, B, Canada. All right, the answer for this one is Poland. Now, again, the colors are really close with this one, the red and white, but it's got those, again, the squared off, corners and those shapes. And just for comparison here too, Canada, different, definitely different. I'm not really sure where the blue comes in on that one, especially because their flag is red and white, but definitely has that very specific maple leaf in the center of it. I don't think anyone could get that confused with anywhere else because that very, very iconic maple leaf that's on their flag too. All right, now here is the last one, everyone. And this one's going to be a little tricky. All right, so absorb that. Take a good look at this one. And tell me, do you think this one is A, Kenya, or B, Jordan? All right. So look closely here. Which do you think this one is? A, Kenya, or B, Jordan? Oh, we got lots of answers coming in the chat. Excellent. All right. Again, kind of tricky with those colors. All right. So lots of participation on this one. Excellent. And answers all over the map. Excellent. All right, everyone. So the answer of this one is Kenya. And with this one, it is tricky at first glance, but once you really look at it, it starts to make a lot of sense. You can tell it's got those thicker stripes with the thinner white lines in between each of them, right? And here is the Jordanian roundel. So again, you can see that 7-pointed star in the red triangle, very iconic of their flag as well. And also, again, those thicker lines going across. Don't feel bad, Shane Edwards. Don't say darn. It's okay. You got it. Good guesses anyway. So we can see, everyone, that these roundels have very distinctive characteristics that can help us to learn where they are from just by looking at it. So next time you see a roundel on a plane, if it's not an American one, see if you can kind of piece two and two together like that. All right, so before we move on, everyone, I want to pause here and see if we've got any questions. Any questions in the chat for us here? Are all roundels circles? No, they aren't. So they can actually be a variety of shapes. For example, we just saw Poland, right? It was actually a square shape. And some are even kind of very, uniquely shaped. So I know that there's one that's in the shape of a shield. We've got some that are in the shape of a triangle or even a cross. All sorts of different shapes here. Most of them are circle. You would assume it's the word roundel. It's got the word round in it, so you'd think it'd be round, but there are actually a variety of other different shapes as well. Good question. Any others? Do roundels always stay the same? No, so they can absolutely change over time. Just like, again, how the American roundel changed, starting off with the star and the dot, right? And then they realized that's not a good idea. So they changed it without the dot, and then they later added the stripes back in again. So really, as long as all parties involved are kind of on the same page and they know that it's changed, and I suppose that other countries also maybe know that it's changed, then that's really all that matters. But they can absolutely, definitely change over time for a variety of reasons. Yeah. So everyone, we learned that roundels act like logos and they can help us to identify countries. But if we look at another plane that we have on the hangar deck here at the Intrepid, you will notice that this one, all right, this is called the Fury. This is a jet plane from the Cold War era. This one came after the Avenger. Well, it takes a little bit of a different approach, all right? So it is not painted blue in that counter shade camouflage like the Avenger was. In fact, it is primarily gray. But you might notice, kind of hard to miss, that it has a very bold yellow lightning bolt painted right across the side of it. It's kind of cool. And that was done on purpose, everyone. So before I get to that, I do, though, want to point out again, here's the backside of it, something else on it. You can see it a little more clearly from this angle. Pointing out again that roundel, right? So this is what the United States roundel looks like today. It's similar to before, the white star and the blue circle, and there's two white stripes on the sides. But again, it's got that red stripe in the middle of it too. Not a red dot, but it's got, again, the stripes there, which does look a lot more like our American flag now, right? But something else to point out too is that sometimes they might still want to show off that the plane belongs to a certain country, but they might want it to blend in and not be super obvious while flying around, even if they are so fast anyway. So they'll use these low visibility versions of the roundels where you can still see the shape, but they're actually all gray in color. So you can see again the United States one still looks just like that image that we just saw on the Fury, but now it's just gray. And again, Dominican Republic and Colombia, which is just a black lines, really, but it's still that shape that we saw earlier with the Colombian one. Because again, if it was yellow and blue and red, that's definitely going to stand out. You are definitely going to be able to notice it. But going back to that lightning bolt, everyone, and that gray color. So as the Navy used jets more and more, they limited the use of paint on them because, as you can imagine, all the paint added weight. And it doesn't really seem like it would be that much weight that it added, but you're painting something really, really big, so it adds up. And in some cases, it could even be 50 to 100 pounds. So instead, they decided to take some of the paint off and just add more fuel to it. Now, why the lightning bolt? Well, pilots were able to add some design, some flair to their planes to make them a little bit more unique. You can kind of think about like athletes, going back to that metaphor, who, maybe they've got special hair, Troy Polamalu, or, they always wear long sleeves or special socks, or they've got goggles or something like that. So those are what make them individuals on the field or on the court. So kind of the same thing here. They had, again, a little bit of flair. And also here, you will notice the green thing on it, right? That green symbol represents what squadron it was part of. So it's like a smaller team that flew together within a team. Everyone who came from the same ship, right? So these green things here, if you look closely at it, kind of looks like a lizard or an iguana, right? So as you could probably guess, then the name of the squadron was the Green Lizards. Sounds like a game show team, right, from the 90s. Hey, but here's their patch, the logo that they got to wear on their clothes. So this is what their attack squadron logo looked like. Now, some people say that it looks like an alligator. Yeah, frankly, you say that it looks like it's supposed to be a crocodile, right? Some people say it's an alligator or Godzilla holding a trident. That would be pretty cool, I will say. And there's a sunset over the water, but the one on the plane does not look quite as fearsome or as detailed as that one, right? And that's because the artist, when he went to go paint on it, he's like, this is way too complicated to paint this detail on all of these planes. So they needed something a little bit simpler, a little bit easier to replicate. So that's why the green lizards look a little bit, simpler on the plane. So a little less intimidating, but still pretty cool looking at it like that. That streak makes it look like it's going really fast. A flying lizard. Now here, everyone, this is another plane that is very cool here, a Blue Angels plane. And the Blue Angels plane in particular, actually, wait, did I skip a slide here? No. All right. No, oh, actually, you know what? No, wait, let me tell you one more thing about this. This plane is really special because it is actually one of the planes. Now we actually got a second one, but it's only one of the planes that actually took off and landed from the Intrepid. Again, we just got another plane just recently from Connecticut that we just craned onto the ship. But this one in particular, again, is still very special because it did take off and land from the Intrepid. All the other ones that we looked at previously were types of planes that took off and landed, but this exact one actually did. And there's actually a really funny story that I do want to tell you about this plane. There were two different squadrons, right? They were both going out on liberty, which basically means that they had some free time. They were going to land on an airbase, and each squadron had about 14 planes each, all right? So one squadron goes away. The other squadron, one night, they went over and they stole one of the planes from the other squadron, and they painted it over with their squadron's markings. So when it came time to leave, they left with all of their planes, but the other one was missing one. And so they're looking around for their logo on the plane, and they're like, hey, where did our plane go? Until they realized that the plane was there. It just had the other team's marking on it. And so, it wasn't very nice, but it was still kind of a funny thing here. So before we move on, everyone, to the Blue Angels plane that I just showed you, I want to pause here and see if we've got any other questions today, too. Any other questions? Did all the pilots paint the planes themselves? Yeah, so pilots would frequently paint their own art on the planes. We talked about, squadron art, but also nose art in general, that they would paint on there just for fun or to show a little bit of personality. We'll see some of that in a little bit. And actually another really fun one on another plane. But they painted lots of interesting art, animals, ladies, birds, all kinds of things on the sides of their airplanes during wartime because, kind of kept them entertained. And yeah, frankly, Elle says it's really hard to miss. I mean, how can you miss a giant thunderbolt streaking across the sky when there are no clouds? How can you miss a giant lizard streaking across the sky when there's no clouds? Great. All right. Any other questions? What are some other squadron pictures? Oh, there's a ton, right? So you've got animals, you've got weapons and shields, kind of, like you'd imagine like a family crest, kind of. So symbols on that too, that might mean something to them. If you've ever seen like a family crest, the different animals and symbols that are on it represent something usually. You've got, devils. You've got Vikings and dragons, chess pieces, cartoon characters, all sorts of things. You name it. They got really creative. There's actually a card game called Squadron Insignia during World War II with a bunch of matching squadron insignia on cards and also some information about them. And then there was one card that was called the Enemy. And you're supposed to find the pairs of the matching insignia for points. And then whoever's left with the enemy card at the end has to then deduct a whole bunch of extra points. So it's kind of like the card game Old Maid, I guess, in a way. But it's really interesting. And I could see how people might be really into that, during World War II, learning about what all these different, insignia mean and whatnot. All right. Awesome, everyone. So now on to what I was showing you before. This plane, the Blue Angels Tiger here, this is a very famous type of plane. This is one that was flown in the 50s and 60s, and they are a very special squadron of acrobatic pilots. And they do special shows all around the country to show off all of the skills and the techniques that the Navy pilots are trained to do. So they are really, really well known for flying in formation like this, doing lots of incredible feats, and represent just the top skills of Navy pilots. If you've ever seen them up in the sky, it's really something cool to see. And certainly here in New York City last summer, we were treated by kind of a flyover with them and the Thunderbirds as well, which is another aerial acrobatic flight team as well. Now, on the side, everyone, of the Blue Angels plane, you can see their insignia. So kind of like a roundel here, but this, again, is their logo or their symbol. It's got an aircraft carrier on it that says Naval Air Training Command. And in the clouds, there are 4 Blue Angels flying in formation, just like you saw that picture before. But the other thing to note here is the colors, right? The colors blue and gold, which are the official colors of the United States Navy. But these are actually specific shades of blue and gold here, all right? Specific shades just for the Blue Angels. Their colors are actually called Blue Angels Blue, and the yellow is called Insignia Yellow. So very specific, I guess you could say, like Pantene color codes there for them only. So very special colors that you'll always see on those planes. Now, another insignia that's neat to look at is on this plane, the Grumman Cougar. And this plane was from the 1950s. So if we look closer at the insignia here, we can see this one. It looks like a pirate, right? It's a Jolly Roger sign. And this is actually a pretty common one. It's been reused quite a bit over time. There's lots of different squadrons that have used it, but only one Navy squadron at a time can use it. So if you are the Jolly Roger squadron, that is your logo. But if your squadron is decommissioned, then the insignia is up for grabs and another group can, claim it and use it as their own. So it is a pretty cool one. I'm sure it is in high demand. This is a Cougar. And again, you can see the Jolly Roger on it. Now, across from the Cougar on our flight deck, we've got the Kaffir. This one has a roundel on it. All right, take a close look. Now, taking a look at this, what country do you think that this roundel represents? Any guesses in the chat, looking at what this symbol is? Any guesses? So we've got the colors here, blue and white, and we've got a 6-pointed star, or Star of David, right? So everyone, if you said Israel, you'd be correct. You can see again on the flag, it's blue and white. We've got the 6-pointed star on there. And fun fact, Kaffir literally translates to lion cub. So again, the color kind of eludes that. But again, it also is a very, powerful supersonic jet. It is camouflaged, as you can see here, to blend in with a specific place where it would be flying over, the desert. All right, here's another one, too, that we can look at. Remember, we were talking about teams within teams. So we have this one here. This is another type of team. This is the U.S. Coast Guard's team. There we go. We've got their symbol there. This is their logo. It's got the anchors, right, and 1790 on it, which is when it started. And this one in particular, this plane, or this helicopter rather, is from the Brooklyn Navy Yard. So it does say Brooklyn on the back of it too. And these types of helicopters were used to save people from the water. So you can see here, again, the Coast Guard insignia next to the U.S. Roundels. So we know that it is a team within a team. It is the U.S. Coast Guard, which is an American team, branch of the military. Now, this plane, everyone, is also very interesting. This is called the Air Maki, and it's got some colors on it. Take a look at this roundel, too. All right, it's got the same colors on it. So let me know what country you think this one comes from. The colors here are red, white, and green. What do you think? Now, there are a couple of countries that have those colors on their flag, red, white, and green. What country do you think that might look like, though, especially with those stripes going across the side? The green, the white, and the red in that order. Any guesses? What country could that be from? Frankly, Elle says it looks fast. Yes, very fast. So everyone, the colors of this one tell you that it would be Italy, right? These colors represent Italy. And this plane is actually an Italian version of basically the Blue Angels. They're called Frecce Tricolori, tri-colored arrows. And my accent is terrible there, but oh well. They do stunts just like the Blue Angels. They even do, their colors in smoke. Again, you can see that red, white, and green. So the stripes on the side are those 3 colored arrows, Frecce Tricolori. There you go. Just like the Italian version of the Blue Angels. Now, right across the way on our flight deck, we also have another really cool insignia. This one is our Harrier Jet here. Very, very cool plane. It's got vents on the side that when they get angled down, it can actually allow the plane to go straight up. So it's a VTOL aircraft, vertical takeoff and landing. And looking closely at the insignia here, we can see a playing card, specifically the Ace of Spades. Now, this is one of the oldest known squadrons. They go back to World War I, but of course, many have used it over the years. But this particular one was for Squadron VMA 231, the Ace of Spades. Very nice. And of course, everyone, we were talking about artwork. So I have to show you this fun plane. This is the Crusader, and you can see it's got that fabulous shark face on the front with those big shark teeth. So this was painted like this by the pilot. And again, he did this both to differentiate between planes, but also just to make it look really cool and kind of fierce. So imagine, everyone, you are flying up in the sky and you are flying alongside this plane and you're looking over to the side and you're seeing all these big shark teeth flying right next to you. I don't know about you, but that might startle me a little bit. I am not expecting to see a shark flying in the sky, let alone, like we were saying before, an iguana or, even a lightning bolt, right? Might kind of startle you, but a shark flying definitely would be a little bit shocking for me. And everyone, if we actually go look at this one too now, here's another one kind of in that area on the flight deck. This is called the Sky Raider. So you can see this one is painted silver, and it's kind of a gray silver. And it's done this way actually because when we got it and we restored it, we wanted to make it look original. But to make it look the most original, it would have just a plain aluminum outside, just plain silver, no paint. Now that would look really cool, but it is actually pretty hard on the plane because, again, it's a museum. This is stored on the flight deck. In this picture, you can even see there's snow on the ground at the time when this was taken. We just had a hurricane, so lots of rain pelting down, right? So here in New York on the flight deck of the Intrepid, we've got rain, we've got snow, and that aluminum would start to corrode, right? We've got seawater, goodness, right, that we're on. So it would start to corrode, it would start to get rusty, and it just wouldn't be nice to the plane. So the museum decided to paint it gray to make it look aluminum, but also to protect the metal that's underneath it as well. But this actually is a really neat insignia to look at as well, since we're here. If we take a closer look at this one, what do you think that this plane represents? So in this particular logo here, we can see some baby birds, right? We see birds here. There's a nice safe nest, and then another older, bigger bird flying around the world with a helmet on it. And on the bottom, it says testing division. So this represents the fact that this was a prototype plane. This was a test plane of an attack bomber. And of course, looking at this again, there are a lot of clues that you can find in these pictures to suggest that. You've got kind of the helmet, like it's a crash test dummy. It's the first one out of the nest. It's the prototype trying it out. And it's a test plane, testing division. So there you go. All right. So any other questions, everyone, before we wrap up for today? Any other questions? How close can the Blue Angels fly to each other? They are incredibly skilled pilots, everyone. The Blue Angels are known for their tight formations, and the closest that they can get in the air is actually only about 18 inches apart. And that is when they're in that maneuver that I showed you with the four of them. It's called the Diamond 360 maneuver. And it's the one that they're famous for. It's why it's on their insignia. You see the four planes there. But again, these pilots are extremely good. They fly in this super tight formation at really high speeds. They fly really high, and they also fly really low too. They've got this move called the sneak pass that they're flying just about 50 feet from the ground. And that's also the fastest one they do too. I think they go something like 700 miles per hour. So that's crazy. 700 miles an hour at only 50 feet above the earth. Yikes. So fearless pilots too, I would definitely say as well. Very, very, very skilled trained pilots there. All right. Any other questions? Why are some of the cockpits blue? All right, so you might have noticed that actually. Good eyes. The aircraft restorators have to make decisions about, of course, the artwork on the planes that we have at the museum, and the color of it, the way that they painted, for example, this one that we just looked at. And they often try to paint them, of course, how they originally looked, though sometimes they decide also to leave it as it is to show the age as well. I know the last time I was in their restoration hangar, they were working on a helicopter, and they decided to leave the inside of it kind of as they received it. It's a little falling apart, but they wanted to kind of preserve it that way too. So as someone working in a museum, you can choose how you'd like to restore it, either to show it its wear or to make it look brand new. But the blue, in particular, on the instance of the Crusader, which I'll show you back here again, this is another one of those decisions that they had to make. So this is not artwork done by the pilot. This is not, some of that fancy stuff that you see on cars where it, makes it look iridescent or something like that just for fun. This is actually special paint that's used to protect the inside of the cockpit of the plane from the sun. Because again, it is out there on our flight deck. It's exposed to the elements all day, exposed to just the harsh rays of the sun all day. And so the pilots, wouldn't have had that on the glass like that. We have it, though, to protect and preserve the inside of the plane. So the seats and the controls and whatnot. For those that are still inside of the plane, we want to protect it from the sun. All right, my friends. So thank you so much. If you've got any other questions about our programs, you can reach out to us through our website, intrepidmuseum.org, or also through our social media platforms. Thank you again for watching and playing along with me, the Roundel Challenge, and giving me some of your questions too. As you know, the museum has introduced a number of new live streams just like this one. So please do follow and subscribe to this channel or visit our website for the latest streaming schedule. Also, as a reminder, we are reopened to the public 7 days a week again, so we'd love to see you on site at our museum as well if you're in the area where you can actually check out yourself some of these really amazing planes that we looked at today in person. Now, our next family program is Thursday at 3 p.m. It is High Flying Design, where we're going to talk a little bit about how planes can fly, and you'll also get some more up-close looks at some of the amazing aircraft that we've got on display at the museum. So once again, that's this Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on our streaming platforms. Once again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you online for another Intrepid adventure. See you next time, everyone. Bye-bye.